Pew Research asked Americans if it's necessary to believe in God to be moral, and the results make me sad. So it says age education gaps, on whether belief in God is needed in order to be moral. So in total, the percentage of people who say it's necessary to believe in God in order to be moral. Ready for this? 42%. Almost half of the American people say it's necessary to believe in God to be moral. That's so sad. And let's just think for a second, what's that number like in even less developed countries? I mean, that number has got to be ridiculously high in less developed countries. We're a pretty developed country, and 42% of our population, nearly half, so you have to believe in God to be moral. Now, granted, we're going to be on the lower end, if not the lowest, among other developed nations. So you do this poll in Scandinavia, you do this poll in Australia, you do this poll in the UK, they're going to be like, yeah, no, of course you don't have to be. But how sad is it that this is our country, 42% of people, you have to believe in God to be moral. That's just demonstrably untrue. So let me give you some more specifics here. 38% of men say it's necessary to believe in God to be moral, 46% of women, 35% of white people, 63% of black people, 55% of Hispanic people. Then when you go by age group, younger people are saving grace. 26% of young people say it's necessary to believe in God to be moral, 38% for age 30 to 49, age 50 to 64, it's 49%, and 65 and older, 57%. That's sad. And then obviously by education, the more education you have, the less likely you are to believe that you have to believe in God to be moral. The less education you have, like if you have high school education or less, over half of them, 56%, say you have to believe in God to be moral. So, I mean, I don't even know how to respond to this other than to say, look, you know a lot of atheists. Even if you don't know that you know them, you know them. Atheists are your neighbors. Atheists are, you know, the person whose store you go to when, I don't know, you want some food. That would be a restaurant, asshole. An atheist owns the restaurant down the street. An atheist owns the grocery store. An atheist is your neighbor, is your buddy, the person who you talk to when you, I don't know, you go to the pool or you go play tennis or some shit. I don't know. We're everywhere. And in fact, when you look at polling on the beliefs of atheists, more atheists believe in the philosophy of Jesus than Christians. So there are more atheists who say, hey man, treat everybody good. Let's look out for the poor and the vulnerable. Let's give people health care and education. So atheists have a belief system, on average, that is more humanitarian than people who describe themselves as Christian. So we just say we don't need God to determine right and wrong. I know right and wrong based on the actions themselves. If I'm causing harm to people, if I'm doing something to somebody else that I wouldn't want done to me, I think that's immoral. I think that's unethical. But unfortunately, a lot of people hear when you say, hey man, I'm an atheist, what many people hear is, hey man, I don't believe in right and wrong. Hey man, I'm a nihilist. But that's not even unfair to nihilists, because you could be a nihilist in the sense that you don't believe in objective morality, but still say, hey, subjectively, you should act in a way that treats people good. So it's just sad that people interpret that as, oh, you don't believe in ultimate right and wrong. And no, I'm an atheist, I'm a non-believer, but I have a very strong moral compass that says I should treat people how I want to be treated, and people deserve education, people deserve health care, people deserve equal opportunity, people deserve a living wage. So what we need is a fucking PR campaign that lets Americans know atheists are everywhere. We're everywhere, and we have a strong moral compass, and your perception that we don't is just that. It's a perception based on negative stereotypes that are carried over from generations ago. And that perception has to go because, yes, it is fair to call that bigotry. It's anti-atheist bigotry to just assume that if you don't believe in God, you are by definition immoral.